Hello there, it's a Saturday afternoon and I am in Shindangdong in Jung District, not far from Cheonggu Station. If you saw my 3 a.m. walk through Seoul, I walked on this street and through this neighborhood in the early part of that video. We're in some nice spring weather today. Clear skies, it's sunny. It's like 17 degrees Celsius, which is like 63 Fahrenheit. We got up into the teens a couple of weeks ago, and then it dipped down into cold weather again, and we had some snow last week, which was unexpected. And anyway, I think we're past the cold weather now. The forecast calls for us getting up into the low 20s later this week. In the past couple of videos that I've uploaded here, I was focused on walking. I did the walk from World Cup Park to Namsan. That was a long walk to show you some of Seoul's green spaces that are nice to walk through. And then in the most recent video before this one, I took you through the back streets of Gangnam and told you why I like walking the back streets of Gangnam, how I like seeing the variety of the architecture and the office buildings mixed with the residential apartments. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about why I enjoy walking downtown, which is where I spend most of my walking time these days. And you can see that this neighborhood here, this is a residential area, and we're kind of in the middle of the block, but you don't see office buildings. Everything here is a villa, the low-rise apartments. And this is what a typical neighborhood looks like. And in fact, these buildings are rather old. There aren't many recent constructions in this neighborhood. I can't think of any off the top of my head that look very recent. Some of them, like this one, I would guess is from the 90s based on the exterior, those stone tiles, you know, this one too. But a lot of the other ones would be from the 80s, the 70s, maybe early 90s. There might be some from the early 2000s around, I don't know. But mostly these are older buildings. Oh, this one looks relatively new compared to the rest. This gray one right here next to the red brick building. And there are a few little offices scattered around, or shops, businesses, on the first floors of some of these buildings. You've got one here, you've got one right here in the basement in that building, Chiha. But you don't see any office buildings. So that's kind of typical for these old downtown neighborhoods that didn't see the kind of development that Gangnam saw. And in many cases, when development did happen, entire neighborhoods were removed, entire blocks. And that's still kind of going on to some degree. When I come out for my daily walks, these days I spend a lot of time downtown. And I frequently come through this area, if not in this direction, then often the opposite direction. And that's basically because of time. I live in Shindangdong, in another part of Shindangdong, and when I come out for my walks, I want to get them done in the least amount of time I can, 2 or 3 hours. The less time I spend walking, the more time I have to get my work done. That's the main reason I walk downtown a lot, because I can do a loop, come back to my house, or I can just go straight out somewhere and maybe take a bus or a subway back. But it's not just about saving time, because even on the days when I decide to take off from work and spend more time walking, I still end up coming downtown. I may have it in my mind that, oh, today I'm going to go to Gangnam or Jamsil or something, and then I end up walking downtown anyway, because I'm just so attracted to everything that is Central Seoul. It's old, it's new, it's boring, it's interesting, it's exciting. There's just so much variety. It's the history, it's the modern architecture, it's all of it. The first example that we come to on this walk, we've just come through this neighborhood that has these straight streets. If you look at the map, it's obviously a neighborhood that was laid out, that was planned. It's not an organically developed neighborhood. The buildings are 20, 30, 40 years old. And then we get to the street here and we find this. Now, I like that they've got this wooden staircase here, but you know that it would not have been here a few years ago. It would have been the concrete steps that would have been uneven and unbalanced. And now we're in this little warren of alleyways that just wind all over the place. I don't know what it is, but wherever I am in the world, I just enjoy walking through these little alleyways when I find them. And what I like about them here is these days, you see that some of the older residences, they've been painted and, had the exteriors refurbished, renovated. And you can find this variety of colors, and often, sometimes, maybe not often, but sometimes you'll find little hints of personality in the form of decorations or flower pots and that kind of thing. And there aren't many neighborhoods like this left in Seoul, even on the north side of the river. So, another reason I like walking through them is just so that they're in my memory. If they happen to disappear one day. So the Golmokgil means just the alleyway. Saramdul, and I guess you can. I don't understand the Chinese characters here, but I interpret this as the people of the alley. Saramdul means people, and Golmokgil means the alleyway. And so that's what you've got here. You've got all the people in this alleyway. Now this place right here, this is just on the other side of this building. And so the image is looking this way, facing us. So we are just right back here right now. And so this is the thing that was in that drawing. It was looking in this direction. And they call this the Geimi Golmok Shunto. Shunto is like a rest point, rest stop. And Geimi means ant. Geimi Golmok. So I guess the name refers to the way the alleyways here look like, you know, the passages through an ant farm. That's the only thing I can think of.
I suppose that was a pretty good guess, but according to a blog post by the author of a book about the cultural heritage of Chungju, Ant Alley gets its name because the local residents are said to be as diligent and hardworking as ants.
So we come out of the alleyway and out of these old buildings, and now we're right back in the modern world again. I never get tired of the city wall. It never gets old to me. And this is a short section of it. It's not as long as some of the other standing sections. But this gate here, this was the southeast gate, one of the minor gates, Gwanghwamun. And it's one of the gates of the dead. There was another one on the west side of the city called Sosomun, but they used to bring dead bodies through this gate. So this gate was partially destroyed during the Japanese occupation and the Korean War. And in the 1960s, it was taken down. It was located somewhere over here, just a few meters to the north, probably to make way for this road, I believe. And then in 1975, it was rebuilt here. And now they've got all these informational signboards here in Korean and English, and Chinese and Japanese, explaining what's going on. Everything I just told you. In addition to a few of the little old neighborhoods full of alleyways and old buildings, you can still find a few smaller pockets of that kind of thing scattered around. Not entire neighborhoods, but just small little areas. And we're gonna head off in this direction in a minute, but I just wanted to step through here to show you this. It's a very small little area of these old houses, and these have been remodeled quite a bit. And you see it's just, there's this, I think this is a hotel. But just right among all these big buildings, you've got these old properties here, still standing. And I don't know what's up with these containers. And then right there is the DDP, Dongdaemun Design Plaza, and Migliore department store beyond that, and Dusan Tower beyond that. So it's just the contrast of all of this old and new. Gangnam is pretty much all new, right? Newish, you know, within the last few decades. But here, you know, you get things, the old city wall. It's not the original, of course, but I mean, it's a restored version of the original, and the gate, but that dates back to the 14th century. These old style houses, some of them date back to the 50s and 60s and earlier. And then all of this. It's like stepping from one world into another. And of course, when I wander the city these days, there are parks everywhere, especially on the north side of the river. And you can always end up stumbling on one somewhere. The reason I came over here to this park has to do not with the park itself, but with this right here. This is somewhat nostalgic for me. But this used to be a little U.S. Army compound. It was the headquarters of the Far East District of the Corps of Engineers. I believe Stars and Stripes, the military newspaper, I believe they had their offices here too. I had to drive here a couple times when I was in the Army in the early 90s. The compound has been empty for a while. I know that the Corps of Engineers, the Far East District, they moved to Camp Humphreys in 2018 as part of the relocation of all the U.S. forces. But I think they might have left this compound before then. I'm not sure. Those two visits to this compound, those are my two earliest memories of this part of Seoul. I didn't have any reason to come out this way at that time. And here's the old gate, the main gate, the only gate, I believe. That's where I would have driven in. And it looks like the old buildings are still there too. This area was always kind of a big blank space on my mental map of the city because I rarely came through here. My memories of what it was like through here are very sparse and scattered. And you know, a lot of the buildings here were probably around then. They look like they're old enough. All of the buildings pretty much in this area. Coming through here these days, it's kind of a making up for lost time. You know, what was here before is not in my memory, so I just want to keep what's here now. So as we come to this part of Central Seoul, we've got a bunch of markets around here. So you've got Gwangjang Market right over there, which is popular with tourists these days. And I tend not to go there because it's so crowded. But then here you've got Bangsang Market, Bangsang Shijang. And this one is geared more towards businesses, right? This is where you come if you want to buy to-go boxes and plastic bags and stuff like that. I mean, there's other stuff around here too. I think there's some print shops and things like that. But I'm going to do a full video on this area, this market. There's another market just across the street over there. You've got the dried fish market, the dried seafood market. So you have the dry seafood market, you've got Bangsang market, and then you've got Gwangjang market, just all on a line here. And then just to our east is the Ujiro Furniture Street. So there's a lot to talk about in this area. And I do intend to do a whole video about it, but today I just want to walk through because this is one of the things I like walking downtown. So we've come through an old residential area. We've passed through the old city wall gate and saw a section of the city wall. We've gone through Dongdaemun Market with all its modern architecture. And now we've come to this area with these markets with these older buildings. And that's what I mean when I talk about the variety. We've still got some narrow alleyways to go through here. So you saw that woman back there with the towel on her head, and she had a round tray on a little cart there. That towel is there to cushion her head because that big round tray, when it's full of dishes, goes on top of the towel on her head, and she will deliver food like that. And you can find old restaurants in this area where people still do that. That's been going on for years and years and years. And again, it feels like going back in time, walking through alleyways like this. And there's the seafoods market over here, the dried seafoods market. Since 1957, Jungbu dried seafoods market. And this street here, you'll find all sorts of lighting shops. When we opened our hot dog shop, we came down here, we bought, this is where we sourced our plastic bags and to-go boxes. And one of these lighting shops, we got some lighting fixtures. If you happen to come this way, there are a few little cafes on these back streets here. And I've been to a couple of them that were really good. Good espresso, good Americano, good pastries. So that's another plus for exploring this area. You'll find some decent coffee shops. But again, the contrast. That entire block over there pretty much has been demolished and all the old buildings replaced with this stuff. And it's just such a contrast with what's still standing here. The ever-changing, ever-evolving city of Seoul. And you see more of the lighting shops around here. And the furniture street is just over there. All kinds of desks and tables and chairs for offices or cafes, homes, whatever. Now, I love coming down this street on the weekends when the shutters are down because you've got so much street art along the way. But yeah, look at all this artwork. And this is something that wasn't here, and then it was. You know, I mean, I didn't come through here for a long time, and then a couple of years ago, I walked through here on a Sunday, and all the shutters were down, and I was flabbergasted. You know, when did it happen? I mean, this is a heavily industrial area right here. We're out of the markets now, right? This is the industrial part of Ujiro, what's still left of it. And this building right here, this is part of the Seiun Plaza, Seiun Sanga, which I talked about in another video. That's some of the apartments from that, and the shops on the bottom straight ahead of us. But yeah, you've even got street art down this way. And this is just fantastic.
Can you hear me calling out your name? You know that I'm falling and I don't know what to say. I speak a little louder, I'll even shout. You know that I'm proud and I can't get the words out. I wanna be with you everywhere. I wanna be with you everywhere. Something's happening to me. My friends say I'm acting peculiarly. Come on, baby, we better make a start. You better make it soon before you break my heart. I wanna be with you everywhere. I wanna be with you everywhere. Can you hear me calling out your name? You know that I'm falling and I don't know what to say. Oh, come along, baby, we better make a start. You better make it soon before you break my heart. I wanna be with you everywhere. I wanna be with you everywhere. I wanna be with you everywhere. I wanna be with you everywhere.
Now, the thing I love about walking through here along Chongno Samga, particularly the third block, and the surrounding side streets, is it takes me straight back to the 90s. I mean, this place, the signboards are different. There was a lot more neon back then. You don't see any neon now. It's all electric, LED, that kind of thing. But it used to be full of neon signs, but the buildings are pretty much the same. And the general atmosphere, the general feel of the place is pretty much the same. And this is where, one of the places where I used to come out and hang out sometimes on the weekends. I'd meet people down here at Jongno Samga Station, the Jongno 3rd Block station on line 3. And there were movie theaters here. There were coffee shops, restaurants, everything you wanted to hang out. And it wasn't Gangnam, right? It was cheaper than Gangnam. And there were street food vendors. You could find vendors selling fish cakes with the soup, the broth that they cooked them in. You had the little old ladies selling the sugar candy things, the kind of things they have in Squid Game. I can't remember the name of them now, but they used to make them right there. There'd be a lady sitting down on the sidewalk with a little burner and a little grill on the burner, a frying pan kind of thing. And she'd just be, you know, mixing up her brown sugar concoction and heating it up right there on the sidewalk. Yeah, but this still feels like it did back then. And so, you know, if you're walking through this part of Seoul, it's going to hit different for you than it does for me, for sure. But this video is about why I like to walk downtown. And when I first met my wife, a mutual friend introduced us. She invited us out here separately. I had no idea she was planning to fix me up with somebody, and I had seen my wife with her before. I hadn't spoken to her at the time, but yeah, she invited me out to a movie. I got out here and she says, "Oh, this is my friend." And we got some movie tickets at a theater over here, and we hung out at a coffee shop somewhere that was here and chatted before the movie started. And this theater that was here, it was called Seoul Theater, Seoul Gukjang, and it was probably the place where I saw more movies than in any other theater. And for the last several years, it has been in various stages of demolition. I can't say for sure when it closed down. It was quite a long time ago. And for a long time, it was partially demolished. It had some of the guts hanging out of it, but it was still standing, and now it's completely gone. Too bad I didn't get a shot of it while it was still there. I'm kind of kicking myself for that now, because about maybe a year and a half ago, it was still standing in its partially demolished state. Yeah, I remember, I don't remember everything that was playing then. There were probably only 3 or 4 movies playing at the place. These days, all the cinemas here are big, you know, Western style cinemas, huge things with the big snack bars and, you know, 16 movies playing. This one was bigger than most at the time, and it had maybe 3, maybe 4 movies. Most places had 1. And I remember Armageddon and Titanic were playing, and I just figured, you know, I'm going to the movies with 2 women, we should go see Titanic. So I kept pushing for Titanic, and they're like, no, not Titanic. And we ended up seeing Armageddon. So that was officially my first date with my wife, I guess. But I remember, you know, coming up here for a movie at night and then walking down this way after the movie, and it's late, and this place was just so seedy back then. You still had the Cheonggye Expressway, the elevated expressway that was here going by, and there were a bunch of piles of garbage here. I think this was a trash collection point under the expressway here. And of course the stream was covered at the time. And I would sometimes well, every time I saw a movie here, I would come here and grab a taxi because there weren't a lot of people waiting for taxis here. Most of the people were up there on the main street on Jongno. So you could always get a taxi here. And it was just so sketchy looking here. It was the only part of Seoul that I thought was sketchy at night. And it's just a completely different place now. Now I could just as easily have taken you in that direction as this direction and given you another list of reasons why I like walking downtown. And if you saw in I think it was my last favorite places video, the last one I did last year, which by the way, I'm gonna do another one very soon. But the last one I did, I showed you some places I like to walk along Jongno, a couple of my favorite places there. There was a path between one of the palaces and Jongno Shrine, the Joseon era shrine. And you know, that's right over this way. You know, so there's that historical aspect. And then I get here and there's this nostalgia aspect, and then we can keep going. We've got, you know, the first block of Jongno down there, which was massively redeveloped several years ago. So all the old buildings are gone, but you've got all these new buildings, and that brings back, you know, memories of my time working in that area. So that's my daily walk life, right? And it's why I enjoy walking downtown more than in other parts of Seoul. And I do enjoy the other parts of Seoul, but I just enjoy it here more. It's because of the variety, the history, the industrial areas, the residential areas, the streams. There are so many streams on the north side of the river. You get them on the south side too, but they're more spread out. They're further apart. Here, there's just a bunch of them not too far from each other. So there's that. It's just, I don't know if I got it all across in this video, but I hope that if you spend time in Seoul, you end up finding as much enjoyment walking the city as I do, whether you go through the green spaces, whether you walk through the back streets of Gangnam, or whether you come downtown through all the stuff I showed you today. It's always interesting, it's always fun. And I can't imagine living anywhere else in the world, you know? I think back to my hometown. I don't want to live there. London, Berlin, I love visiting places like that, Tokyo, but I can't imagine living anywhere other than Seoul. So I hope you enjoyed coming along with me today. I will see you very soon with a new favorite places video. Thanks for watching, thanks for liking, and thanks for subscribing. Bye-bye.